Asante Sana, Warden. Alrighty, everybody, say goodbye to Taylor. Because we are going to Twin Day. You want to know what Twin Day means? Twin Day means let's go. Jumbo, everyone. Jumbo. Jumbo, my name is Spencer, and I'll be your safari guide for today. Now, as we head out onto the reserve, please do try to keep your hands, arms, feet, legs, heads, bags, bodies, babies, belongings inside the truck at all times. It does get a little bumpy out here on the reserve. Don't want anybody to lose anything or have anything go overboard. If something does go overboard, unfortunately, I cannot stop to go get it, but I will call for someone to go get it. I just can't guarantee it'll come back in the same condition. Now, this first area that we're entering is called the Little Ituri Forest. The Little Ituri Forest is home to a lot of animals that have learned how to blend in or camouflage themselves into the surrounding environment. Much like this okapi off to the right-hand side, he's using the strategy of if I don't see them, they don't see me. And you might think that they are a relative of the zebra because of the stripes on their legs, but they're actually more of a relative of the giraffe because they have very similar head shapes and both use long tongues in order to pull leaves off of trees and bushes in the surrounding area. They also have little ossicones on top of their heads, which is actually something that they share only with their cousin, the giraffe. Only the giraffes and the okapis have ossicones, and they're much more prominent on the giraffes, which hopefully, without giving too much away, we'll be able to see today. Take a look off to your right-hand side, you can see a bunch of bushes. That is a shout out for all my horticulturists out there. Plants and trees are very much an important thing in the natural circle of life. But a little bit more eye-catching is off to the left-hand side. Looks like two different kinds of antelopes. There's an orange antelope and a brown antelope. The orange antelopes are specifically bongos. They're known as the ghosts of the forest because of their reputation to blend into their surroundings very well. While the brown antelopes are called greater kudus. They are one of the taller antelopes in the world, measuring up to 55 inches at the shoulder. Those bongos and greater kudus are actually relatively well, or very closely related to one another. And with that, we are now leaving the Little Ituri Forest and we are entering the Safi River. The Safi River is home to a lot of aquatic animals, or animals that love to live in, near, and around water, much like this hippopotamus off to the right-hand side. Now, I promise this hippopotamus is totally fine. He is completely fine. He's just asleep. And they are sleeping right now, which is common for them since they are nocturnal. That means they'll just kind of be sleepy and maybe fully asleep during the day, but they will be more active and eat and exercise during the nighttime. They'll also get up if they need to, if food is readily available to them. Anything that's standing out to me. Oh, just kidding. Off to the left-hand side, you can see a group of Nile crocodiles. Now we can tell that these are crocodiles because we're seeing them after a while and not later. And also because their snouts are going to be a little bit longer and in a bit more of a pointed shape, as opposed to an alligator, which has a shorter snout and it's a bit more of a curved U-shape. Because crocodiles are always smiling, they'll always have their teeth outside of their mouth, as opposed to alligators, which have all their teeth inside their mouth, even when their mouths are closed. Those crocodiles can also be very low energy if they need to. And because they are so low energy, they can actually go for months without eating if they need to. But if they do go for months without eating, they'll typically gorge themselves on their next meal and eat up to half their body weight in one sitting. Now just up ahead, this is actually one of my favorite views on the entire reserve. This is an overlook of the African savanna. Now the savanna is a very beautiful but very delicate ecosystem with every animal on it playing its own particular role. We might see some giraffes while we're out here, and those giraffes will pick leaves from trees high above them, letting the sunlight come through, giving food and nutrients to the plants down below, while the antelope and cattle and wildebeest on the savanna will act as a type of lawnmower, grazing their way across the savanna and making sure that everything's growing at a uniform height and nothing's getting too long. Now I do see those cattle off to the right-hand side, but I'm not going to talk about them just yet, because we're going to get a much closer look at them, and I want to talk about them when we can observe them a little bit more closely. But what I will talk about very quickly is this pack of African wild dogs. Now those African wild dogs may look pretty cute, but don't let that fool you. They're actually one of the most successful predators in the entire world. They'll work together as a team and communicate with chirps and squeaks in order to take down their prey a whopping 90% of the time. And also, they are not related to hyenas at all, because hyenas aren't related to anything. They're not related to dogs or cats. These African wild dogs are more of an offshoot of the dog family, but they are an offshoot because they only have 4 toes. Now as we come over here, we're actually going to be passing through a herd of white bearded wildebeest. These wildebeest have an incredible herd mentality, and they'll actually participate in something called the Great Migration, where 1.5 million of them will travel across the savanna every year, almost about 1,000 miles to reach their destination. They're also known as GNU, G-N-U, from the sound that they make when they communicate with one another. And I actually have heard this sound several times, and I've tried to workshop it to make sure it's as accurate as possible so I can demonstrate it on safaris much like this one, or actually like this one. So this is my fairly accurate impression of what ewes sound like when they talk to one another. Ewe. Ewe. And that's what they sound like. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much, folks. I appreciate it. Now, as we come over here, we are actually passing by that group of Ankole cattle that we saw earlier with those giant horns. Those Ankole cattle have those giant horns which can grow to 6 feet long, tip to tip, but they are mainly hollow, and that's good for them for 2 reasons. One, it makes it a lot easier for their horns to be carried around across the savanna. And they can also use their horns as a type of air conditioning system by circulating blood through those horns and having them get cooled down by the surrounding environment and wind. And it might not seem very important right now when it's kind of in the lower 70s, but on a hot, humid savanna summer day, it's as important to get as many advantages as you can get in order to cool yourself down. Now up ahead, I'm seeing 2 different types of animals. One are these springbok off to the right-hand side, which are those antelopes. But a little bit more eye-catching is this tower of giraffes off to my right-hand side. Those are Maasai giraffes, to be very specific. We can tell that they're Maasai giraffes because of the spots on their fur, which kind of look like unfinished puzzles with lots of missing pieces and jagged edges. And every giraffe has their own particular pattern of spots on their fur, kind of like how we have our fingerprints. Those giraffes will have their spots. Giraffes are also very well known for their very kind of graceful gliding way that they move across the savanna. But they can actually run at a top speed of 35 miles per hour if they feel the need for agility. But mainly baby giraffes will do this. Baby giraffes or smaller giraffes are about 6 feet tall when they were born, but they can reach a total adult height of 18 to 20 feet tall. Now, this up ahead is actually a large rock called Monkey Point, which marks the beginning of elephant country. here. I don't see any elephants right now, but first, off to the left-hand side, you can actually see a couple of monkeys. Those monkeys are specifically mandrills. Those mandrills are the largest monkey in the entire world. They can weigh up to about 100 pounds. And they have very distinct blue and red markings on their face, which keeps them apart. If they look pretty familiar, it's actually because Rafiki is half mandrill, half baboon. In the new movie, he is all mandrill, but in the old movie, he gets his face from the mandrills and gets his very lanky and athletic body from the baboons. And there are some elephants off in the distance. They're off to the right-hand side. Those are African elephants, to be specific. Those African elephants, we can tell that they're African elephants because of the shape of their ears, which kind of look like the continent of Africa. If you squint and tilt your head, use your imagination a bit. And those are most likely going to be male African elephants. We can tell that they are male African elephants because of the fact that they are almost by themselves. There are just two of them, which is very common for adult males. When they separate themselves from the main pack, when they reach adulthood, they'll either live very solitary lives all by themselves, or they will form up with other adult males into something called a bachelor pack. And those bachelor packs tend to be a little bit smaller, only about 2 to 5 elephants per bachelor pack. And as we head across this bridge over here and head down this path, I always love to talk about an interesting story involving the African elephant. So once upon a time in a faraway land called Africa, the elephants' numbers were actually being threatened a little bit, not just from poachers, but also by farmers in the area, because elephants were sneaking onto farmlands to try to grab a free lunch from the crops that the farmers were trying to grow. And in order to protect their livelihood, the farmers would have to try to chase off the elephants, and in doing so would sometimes hurt or injure them, and nobody wanted that. So researchers went down to the area to see if they could come up with a solution to the problem, and they discovered that elephants have very sensitive skin, which means that, like me, means they are very afraid of bees. So the farmers built beehive fences all around their property to act as a type of warning sign for the elephant, and it worked. The elephant's numbers were saved, the farmers were able to continue growing their crops, and as an added bonus, the farmers are now taking care of beehives, which helps out the bee population. So it's a great conservation win-win story for everyone involved. Now this is a much more up-close view of a Maasai giraffe. Over here off to the right. We head up over here. I'm actually seeing a couple more elephants just up ahead. Looks like you've caught up to the main pack. It's very common to find elephants in habitats much like this one, with large watering holes and mud pits. They'll need a lot of water in order to keep themselves hydrated, and they'll use mud from those mud pits in order to protect their very sensitive skin from the sun and from any biting or stinging insects. Off to the left is a flamboyance of greater flamingos. I'll talk about them in just a second, but first take a look off to the right. This very large antelope over here is a Patterson's eland. He is actually the largest antelope in the entire world. Just to give you an idea of just how large he is, you're sitting about 10 feet off the ground right now. They measure up to about 6 feet tall at the shoulder on average. But this guy's actually measuring up to 7 feet tall. And what's really incredible about them is the fact that they can jump another 6 to 8 feet in the air from a standing position. But these flamingos over here are greater flamingos. They're about 5 to 6 feet tall. And because they get their pink color from their diet, they actually kind of look like little gray puffballs when they're first born. As we come over here, we are entering the eastern portion of the savanna. And I'm still seeing some mud pits and some heavy footprints, but we already passed by elephant territory. which means we are potentially in rhino country. Oh, this isn't a rhino, but off to the right-hand side, you can see a water buck over there, but you can actually see a rhino off to the right-hand side, all the way in the back there.
Yeah, take a picture.
Oh, I can't really get a good picture.
Now, don't worry if you can't get a very good shot of them right now, because I just wanted to show you what they look like from very far away. Hopefully, we should be able to get to see a much more close view of them. Oh, and just up ahead, looks like a cheetah wandering around. Now that cheetah is one of the world's fastest land predators. There's another one lying down next to him. Those cheetahs average a top speed of 60 miles per hour, but they have been measured at up to 70 miles per hour. And they are very much built for speed and agility, not so much for power. If a cheetah were to bring down some prey, but a lion or a hyena wanted to share it, the cheetah would have to back off because they are just not built to withstand that kind of power. I did mention lions, though. And off to the left-hand side is something called a kopie. A kopie really is any rock formation that allows anything that's living on it to get a beautiful view of the surrounding territory. You might know of a very famous kopie called Pride Rock, and Pride Rock is kind of like a dream home for lions. Really, any kopie is a great home for lions. But first, off to the right-hand side, you can see a white rhino pretty closely. That's a pretty good view of one. And you can see just how massive they are. They weigh up to about 5,000 pounds. But they have terrible eyesight, so they'll rely quite a bit on their hearing in order to get a full awareness of their surroundings. And I'll talk about them just a little bit more in just a second. Because first, off to our left, you can see, looks like a pride of lions. Small pride, but pride nonetheless. Looks like they're resting and sleeping right now, which is very common for them. They'll rest and sleep for up to 16 to 20 hours out of the day. When they're not resting and sleeping, the females will actually join together as a team and bring back enough food for the entire pride, while the males will monitor and protect the surrounding territory, and like any good Chicagoan, will stay home and watch the cubs. That is my favorite joke, so I hope you enjoyed it. And wherever Simba is, Pumbaa actually can't be far behind. So take a look out to your left. Over there, those are warthogs. Those are the largest burrowing mammal in the entire world. They'll back up into any burrow that they can find and use their tusks for protection. And their tusks are actually surprisingly sharp, so they make for very good defense. Now as we come over here, except there's actually a pretty large variety of animal off to the right-hand side over here. White rhinos, obviously, but there's also a bontebok, which is this antelope lying down the dirt right off to our right-hand side. There's a water buck, which is that shaggier-looking antelope over there, which gets their name from their love for aquatic environments. Yes, I'm talking about you, buddy.
Yeah.
Reason why I love the water buck, though, is because they have hearts on their noses, which I think is just adorable. And there were ostrich eggs over there, which are those eggs off to the right-hand side, as well as some ostrich eggs kind of wandering around. Those ostrich eggs are the largest and most durable eggs in the entire world. They can withstand the weight of a fully grown human man standing on top of one, and you would need a chisel or a very masterfully wielded knife in order to get into one of those eggs. Just up ahead, this is actually a very fascinating animal that not very many people know about. This off to my left-hand side is a scimitar-horned oryx. Now the oryx has that beautiful white coat, which reflects, I should say, isn't just stylish, it's also functional. It reflects sunlight and heat away from the body, which keeps it cool. And the oryx doesn't start sweating until it reaches an internal temperature of 115 degrees, which means that all in all, the oryx doesn't have to drink water for up to 9 months. Just by comparison, it takes us about 4 days without water before we start getting into trouble. And as we head through this gate and come down this path over here, unfortunately, that means that we are coming down to the end of our safari. I know, I'm sorry folks, if I had more to show you I would. But I think we got some pretty amazing views of a lot of these incredible animals out here in the reserve. So, if your adventure isn't quite done yet today, Hakuna Matata, that means no worries. You can head on over to the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail where you can go see some gorillas, meerkats, and a live bird aviary. That is a self-guided walking trail, so you can take as much time to look at all the animals you want, but if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, you can head on over to Rafiki's Planet Watch by taking the Wildlife Conservation or the Wildlife Express train, where you can go pet some goats, sheep, pigs, cows, and alpacas, as well as participate in our animation experience where you get to draw your very own animal Disney character, as well as learn about whatever animal you're trying to draw at that particular time. One last bump to remember me by, because the warden is giving me the all clear to go ahead and dock right here. So this is where I must say goodbye to you folks.